When you use the CK-12 add-on in Google Classroom, your grades automatically show up in your gradebook. To access them, click on Grades, and you'll see the grades here for work that students have marked complete and turned in to you. You can also see some other pieces. So in addition to the completed grades, go ahead and click on any particular assignment. And let's say we pick one that's a FlexBook 2.0 lesson. You can see the assignment here, but the instructions, accessed through classwork or your grades, has a link to the actual lesson itself. When I click on that, I'm going to have a couple of options. So the first option is to view reports. If I click on that, it will open up a new tab that has the report for the class as a whole for anything assigned from the CK-12 add-on. Right here, you can see that this student has 100%, meaning they got 10 correct, but you can actually see their skill level, the number of questions they answered, the level of questions, and the actual answers they answered as they worked their way through. So this student is developing. This student has also gotten 10 correct, but it looks like it took maybe 15 questions as they worked their way through, still developing. This student is exploring. It took 19 questions for them to get correct. So you can kind of see how they're doing. They still get credit for their homework, but you can actually dig into the questions themselves. Videos, Plix, real-world applications, simulations, all just get complete or no credit. So you'll see that as well. But the practice here, you can go ahead and actually click on skill level as well and say, okay, this tells me how the students are doing with the content from beginning all the way up to mastery, whereas the score tells me, did they actually complete this content, or are they doing their work but not even finishing that goal of 10 correct? Like this student only answered 8 questions correct before they submitted it to your class. The other thing you can tell for incomplete assignments is, for example, this student needs to turn in their work. So I can go ahead and submit it for them, kind of send that grade to the gradebook in Google Classroom, or I could remind them to maybe go finish it if they haven't finished it. Whereas for this, they haven't even started the assignment. So they're going to need to go in and actually do that assignment and then submit their work as they go through. So far we have the grades that we have here, plus in Google, plus the class report that I opened up. And then for FlexBook 2.0 lessons, we can go to Insights. And in here, it's going to open up the lesson itself, as well as the insights that go with that lesson. And these are specific to 2.0 FlexBooks for CK-12. What you're going to see at the top is this map that shows the skill level mapped to the engagement. So Carl spent 30 seconds reading through this lesson, barely engaged with the interactive content, videos, anything like that in there, and is on that exploring level for practice. So I might recommend that he starts by going in and actually reading the lesson and then going back and trying out the practice as they work through. Katie spent some more time, engagement's 50% or 52%. I can actually click on the details here or their name on the right, and it will show me that time, that skill level in practice, and the engagement, and actually where that time was spent. So you can see here that it looks like she spent maybe half a minute kind of playing around with the interactive in this particular lesson, reading through stuff, checking things out. So that engagement is based on how they interact with it, plus the time they spend, not including the time they spend on practice. I'm going to click on whole class and jump back up there, because in addition to this skill to engagement mapping, we have our insights and recommendations. So you can see here that a particular interactive might have actually helped them on this particular concept. You can see here that maybe a prerequisite concept might be useful for students struggling with something that's a foundational skill. So you can go ahead and check out that concept and share that with your students. And then this bottom one is actually one of my favorites, because if multiple students are struggling with the same question, we'll surface these questions to you. And then you can actually use this as a starting point for a class discussion the next day, maybe kind of get a sense of where the students are struggling and what questions they're not understanding, even without having to go through all the individual answers from every student. So these kind of sample questions we've raised up for you are a great option for you. So we have our insights here. We had our full class report here. And then if I go back to Google Classroom and I close this out, we can once again see kind of that grade book, and all of these grades show up in here. And just a final note, a little Few things regarding the add-on that may be different from your experience if you've used the integration with Google Classroom before. So here you'll see this draft option. So in Google Classroom, it shows up as a draft in your class until you actually return that work to the student. And you can do that in bulk, or you can do that specifically for an individual piece. Here where it says not turned in, that means the student marked it complete in CK-12, pushed it to Google Classroom, but didn't click the final turn in button in Google Classroom. And so if you are using multiple add-ons, you'd want to make sure that they turned all the pieces in there first. But make sure at the very least that they send the grade from CK-12 so you can go ahead and return it, even if they didn't officially turn it in Google Classroom. This missing is because it's overdue and they haven't submitted it by the due date. This here was actually turned in by a student using the Google turn in button, but they didn't actually watch the video. So they never opened it up from CK-12. Videos are auto submitted for them, or they didn't actually click mark complete in Google inside CK-12 before clicking the turn in for Google Classroom. So go ahead and have them unsubmit that, do that work, mark it complete, and send it along. And that's just kind of some little pieces to be aware of as you're going through your gradebook if you're trying to figure out what happened where. But again, check out your grades in your gradebook, check out the detailed class report we have, and check out Insights for FlexBooks 2.0 to see how your students are doing.